Coming up on today's show.
One of the reasons that people don't set goals is they don't even dare to dream about what possibly could be.
Do you need to have a really, really big picture in order to create some goals, or can someone just kind of jump in at wherever they're at?
Aiming is then, okay, I'm picking something, I'm deciding what completion looks like.
Practical ways for setting and achieving goals today on Keeping You Organized. Hello and welcome to Keeping You Organized. It's getting near the end of the year, and we all start thinking about, we got to set some goals for the next year. And so what we thought today is we're not going to bring a professional organizer on. We're going to bring a guy on who wrote a book about setting goals, practical ways to do it, and that's what we're going to talk about. We have Eric Fisher from BeyondTheToDoList.com. Now, we'll explain what that is. It's not a professional organizing service, but it is a business that has a couple main things. Eric, you do a podcast and you have the books. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, well, now how many books have you done?
There's two so far.
All right, great. Well, two is two more than most people have written, so that's a pretty good thing too. Let's talk for a moment too about your podcast. What can people find when they go to your podcast?
What they can find is 115 plus episodes of me picking the brains of some of the best and brightest and biggest names in the world of productivity. David Allen from Getting Things Done has been on twice. A number of different people. It's fascinating to me. I thought I knew productivity, and then I talk to these guys and learn even more. So, it's fun.
David Allen's stuff is absolutely incredible. I mean, and our audience would definitely resonate with that as well. So let's get into the tips right away. Let's talk about goals, and I think most people, the hardest thing to do is getting started. So maybe you have, what's the way you get started with setting goals?
Sure. I think, honestly, one of the reasons that people don't set goals is they don't even dare to dream about what possibly could be. We end up thinking, you accept the status quo. You think, this is the way life is now. I can't make anything different than this. Or if you see somebody else who's doing better, you just don't think that it's even a possibility. So I've kind of grown into the idea of eliminating the word impossible from my vocabulary and starting there. When you start there, then, if anything's possible, why don't I just dream big, dream broad and big, and come up with as many strange, possibly sounding things that you might want to do or have things be instead of the way they are now, starting there before you actually start acting on the goals.
Now, some people talk about visualization or even just writing it down is a powerful thing. In your experience, what is that factor that takes it from the mind to, okay, this is in cement, this is possible to do?
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of that mingling of facts of can it be done and acknowledging it can, but I think the visualization comes in and touches you kind of in maybe an emotional response or desire mechanism inside your brain. So then your heart, I guess. So then your heart and your brain are working together on the same thing, and so okay, not only do I think it's doable, but I feel that I want it. So let's do this thing.
Wow. Well, and you've probably, since you've talked to over 100 some people on your podcast, I know there's not one way that is the right way to do it. Share some of the differences that you've heard through all these podcasts of the way people get that first step kind of, because, I guess what I'm getting at is that there are people that say, well, first you have to have the mission statement or the value statement, and then the value statement drives, the goals. What are some of the things that you've heard or you've experienced about getting to that first step?
I would say there's some people that say you got to come up with the entire plan before you start. And there's nothing wrong with that. That, for some people, some personality types, that's the best way for them, because coming up with that plan breaks down all the steps from 0 to 100 that need to be done to get to 100 when you're at 0. And that makes it doable because they don't have to think about doing all 100 steps. They just got to do one at a time, and they can handle that. Others, they're kind of more messy and in between, and maybe, dare I say, creative types, maybe, where they want to just go out and try some stuff. They know they eventually want to be at a certain place in life or doing a certain role or whatever, or they have gut feelings about what they want to be doing, but they don't know what that looks like. And for them, I say, don't hesitate. Go and create and engage and practice in public, because none of that is wasted. You're still learning all through that process as you practice.
Well, so you're kind of touching on maybe a little bit like brainstorming, right? Or coming up with broader possibilities other than, hey, I just want to, achieve this in the next 12 months or whatever. What are some of the triggers that you've heard from some of your guests on how someone goes about that? Do you use mind maps, or what are some creative ways that people can brainstorm?
Yeah, totally. I'll say my favorite, honestly, still to this day, even with all the digital tools that we have, is to go to the coffee shop, whether it's busy or not. Sometimes I like it busy, actually. Maybe some ambient music, maybe some atmosphere, and I will not take something digital other than my phone, but I'll keep it in my pocket or the car, and I will open up a big legal pad or even one of the like half-size versions of those, and I will get a pen or a pencil, and I will just let my mind wander, and I will write down all of the stuff. It's kind of what David Allen calls a brain dump.
Yes.
And so by doing that brainstorming and letting myself just wander, meanwhile having coffee and kind of jolting the brain awake, I get to places that I maybe wouldn't have if I was almost in a rigid structure of having to almost commit in some ways by typing something. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. My wife and we talk about this all the time about, I just need some time to think, because I think in our busy society, we don't take the time to think. In a coffee shop or, going to a little retreat center or wherever it is where you can just kind of be away from it all. And I understand the thing about the Starbucks, because I love Starbucks, that noise almost creates this a fence around you so that the guy sitting at the next table really can't hear you because there's so much noise, but you're kind of in this little cocoon. So I totally get that.
Yeah. So that's one method. Another is honestly, when brainstorming, some people do need to see it structurally and have a mind map where, oh, here's a circle, and oh, that goes with that circle, so let me put a line off of that, and then oh, there's another, oh, that's a completely different thing, but I'm going to put that circle way over here and then I'll color it this certain way, and there's nothing wrong to those two approaches. Are honestly, mine's almost similar. My favorite is almost similar to that. I'm just not daring to put structure on it from the beginning because I want everything to flow out first.
Well, you hear this term, I'm sure you've heard it on some of your shows, about dreamers and doers and the different kinds of people. Some can think big, but have a hard time kind of doing the day-to-day stuff. Others really good at the day-to-day stuff, but can't get beyond, what do I need to get done this week? Back again to this idea of, do you need to have a really, really big picture in order to create some goals, or can someone just kind of jump in at wherever they're at?
No, I would say that honestly, sometimes one of the best things you can do is just say, hey, there's this one thing that's just bugging me right now, and I don't like it. It's my pain point. Every time I do something, fill in the gap here of what it is, some aspect of that bugs me. And so what would it take for that to be different? And maybe think about it, pick that one thing and change that one thing over time for about 3 to 6 weeks. And then once that change is done, suddenly you've actually gotten a quick win, which makes other things you decide to do more possible in your mind.
Right. Now, in one of your books, you talk about ready, aim, fire. Kind of explain the concept behind that.
Sure. What we visualized was a target that you were trying to hit. And so the getting ready is the deciding, what do you want to change? What are the goals you want to make? What does success look like in any of these given aspects that, we all want to change our whole life overnight. You can't do that. It doesn't happen. It's one incremental change after another over time that makes it happen. So that's the kind of the getting ready part. It's actually still work. Aiming is then, okay, I'm picking something. I'm deciding what completion looks like. Sometimes we have goals and we say, well, I wanted this. Okay, but what specifically, like what's the actual hitting of the target in that instance of success look like? And then firing is just hitting it. And it may not be the first try. It's consistently shooting though.
Getting it done. So back to the writing goals now, is there a certain format that you propose? Like, should it be a complete sentence? Should it have, a date and time? What are some of the structures of that? And I guess I would call this kind of like probably an intermediate goal, because you were going to break it down into doable tasks, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. But how would you write something like that?
Yeah, there are a couple of different methods. Honestly, the way that I see it the easiest for myself personally, after studying these and implementing and figuring out what I like the best, was honestly to say, I want this change, this is when I want it by, and this is what I'm doing to get there. And actually I skipped a step. This is what I'm doing to get there, and then what the final outcome looks like, and then saying this is the specific action I'm taking, or actions I'm taking to, this is the flow of the arrow.
Right.
To get to
absolutely.
So,
great. Well, so we've got this written down. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, I want to talk about how we bridge from having that sentence written down, or really the elements that you just outlined right there, which I think are really good, and then how do we take that into action on a daily basis? And maybe that'll tie into your company name, Beyond the To-Do List. But so we'll take this break. We're with Eric Fisher from BeyondTheToDoList.com, and we'll be right back. When you've got it together, everyone can tell. Your confidence is obvious. Introducing Viewables.com from Smead. Use the Viewables labeling system to transform your drawer of hanging files into a tidy, organized filing system. Using the premium hanging folder tabs, see the label from the front, top, and back. It's easy. Access Viewables.com from any computer, tablet, or internet-enabled smartphone. Let's make some labels. It's free, and there's nothing to download or install. Choose the label type and format your label just the way you want. You can even add index characters or icons for distinctive filing. Set up a free Viewables cloud account, and your secure login lets you save your projects for convenient access from any computer. And with Viewables multi-purpose labels, you can use one label for any type of file, including hanging folders, top tab folders, super tab folders, or oversized items like notebooks and file boxes. Upload a list of file headings and print your complete set of labels in moments. There's even a library of templates for commonly used label sets. It's never been easier to set up neat-looking files that have easy-to-read headings and efficient color codes. Obviously organized. Viewables.com. From Smead, keeping you organized. We're back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about practical ways to set and achieve goals. And we're joined with Eric Fisher from BeyondTheToDoList.com. Eric, before the break, we were talking about the idea of setting goals, what that involves. And there's a lot of different ways, but brainstorming, kind of coming up with, dream big, think of all the possibilities. You do want to hone it down. One question I want to ask is, how many goals are too many or too few? Some people say just one goal or, 3 goals, but, if you have 20 goals, is that too many?
It might be. My way of looking at this is, I don't put something into a goal processing kind of, like I have an idea hopper of, someday maybe, or wouldn't it be nice if, and I will, when a thought like that pops up and, wouldn't it be nice if we could go on vacation to such and such place, that, I've not made that a goal yet. It's just it's a whim. It's a desire. I will put that in a holding place that, because if I have too many of these goals going on at once, then unfortunately, what sometimes can happen is if you're working on more than one at a time, and as we all have seen, we're working towards a goal and maybe we derail quickly, or I'll call it have a flat tire. What we tend to do is we will ride on that instead of stop hitting pause, fixing the tire and moving on. We will roll on that flat tire for a while and say, man, this car is just not drivable. Forget this. And we just throw all of the things we're working on out the window at that point. Like we'll dump our diets, we'll stop exercising, we'll start watching more TV, we'll stay up late and eat food we shouldn't. It snowballs the negative way, but it also snowballs the positive way. So I like to get certain goals done, 2 or 3 of them at most at a time. For me personally, some people, they could probably do 4, 5, 6 plus. 20, that's a bit much to me.
Well, I remember Covey in his book talked about roles and goals too. So you maybe come up with 4 or 5 roles, and then you have goals for each one. But that, that's just another way to take it. So let's get more practical now. We've got the goals set. It's the first of the year. We wake up on New Year's Day, and we're ready to start achieving the goals. What's the way to bridge people into the day-to-day life?
Once you know what it looks like to be on the other end of having accomplished that goal, and you can break down, okay, what does it take for me to get to that? Then you can plan out what does a realistic and ideally daily effort on that goal look like. And then you just have to break it down. And honestly, this is where we kind of falter. Again, like I said, with the flat tire, it's like, oh man, I missed a day. Well, I'm done. My diet's over. No, you fix the flat tire
Right.
because you've already planned out the other days beyond where you're at right now. You're not done with the road trip if the flat tire happens, in other words.
Right. Well, let's talk about like a daily to-do list. Do you use a to-do list, or is a to-do list part of this process? And I know there's lots of different ways to do it. And maybe you can even share your own way you do it. And maybe some of your podcast guests, how they've handled that day to day. Is it a written document? Is it phone? Kind of thing. And how many things should you have on that list?
Yeah. As little as possible, because we all know stuff pops up that you don't have control over, but you can limit those hopefully. But my personal practice is I will have a digital hard copy where, that's where the calendar is. Although we do have an analog calendar. We have a paper calendar that my wife loves to use. That the to-do list, the gathering, the collecting, the capturing of new things that have to be done goes in digitally, but then I process it out to, and I'll show you here, the pad.
There you
go. And what I'll do is it sits right here next to me, and the end of the day today, I will prepare tomorrow's version of this. And there's a pen here, and it's in order of time, based on time commitments, as well as in order of priority as much as possible. And then I go from top to bottom and I cross stuff off. And I don't know about you, but I just get kind of a giddy feeling of, yeah, cross that off. And you just don't get that with checking a box on a computer.
Right. I did that this weekend with the yard work. It was kind of like, okay, I got to do this, this, this. I wrote it on a little Post-it note, and I knocked them all off, and it did feel really good about that.
Yeah.
What about going then, okay, that's kind of your daily routine, going back then to the goals and, a review or a checkup.
Mm-hmm.
Is it weekly, quarterly, couple times a year? How do you kind of loop back to those big goals and making sure that you're still staying on track?
Yeah, it's definitely a weekly thing for me, because going much further than that, you start to forget things, or you don't become as agile to be able to stay on track. Then also a monthly is important. And then beyond that, it's really more of a seasonal thing. It can be 2-3 months, it can be 4 to 5 months, it can be 6 months, but I have already pre-designated it on the calendar, and I look over that whole segment and just say, okay, where are we at with all the stuff from here to here, and I flex it that way.
Okay, personal confession now. Do you have a pretty tidy desk, or do you have piles or Post-it notes all over the place? Is that part of the system?
It's neat. Right now there's a couple of things sitting here because I haven't done a lot right here at this desk this day, but it's actually pretty neat. It's actually kind of it's a standing desk here.
Oh, nice.
So that can convert to I can sit too, but I have a stand, I have this microphone, I've got my keyboard and my mouse, I've got some drawers here, and it's pretty nice. Like I like to have everything out of the way so that I can pick stuff up and go, or bring stuff in and sit or stand and just start.
All right. Well, so you do this Beyond the To-Do List. That's the name of the podcast as well, correct?
Yes.
What are just a couple really memorable moments from, you've got over 100 episodes. What are some of those, like, oh, I loved it when this guy said this, because people like to chew on those little nuggets.
Sure. I think one of the things that stood out to me the most was about a year ago, I was talking with Michael Hyatt, and we were talking about goals, actually. And one of the things we both kind of came away with from that conversation was this idea that if you're looking at what you don't want to be like, or where you've been, instead of where you're wanting to go, your brain continues to kind of self-sabotage, in a sense, where and he likened it, he used this metaphor that race car drivers, they have to, when going around a curve, they have to turn their head and look at the road where they're going instead of looking straight ahead, because they're looking straight ahead at a wall. Mm-hmm. And if they don't look to where they're going, there's no way around it. Like, they actually will run right into the wall. So you've got to look where you're going, not where you have been. Mm-hmm. And both of us having, fatherhood issues with our fathers and things like that, and not wanting to repeat those mistakes of our fathers, realize, that's why, we both hung up on that too much and wanted to move forward. So, yeah.
How about maybe a guest who shared a story about, starting over, kind of, you've hit bottom, and, you even think to yourself, can I even set goals, or can I even move forward? How do you bust yourself out of that mindset, or just, most people, like, when they're trying to get organized, feel overwhelmed. How do you get them past the overwhelm?
I think that probably it would be Crystal Payne, where she's Money Saving Mom. She said that ultimately you can feel overwhelmed about everything around you and feel like you're just in survival mode, and only by saying, okay, no, I do not accept this, I'm hitting pause, and I'm going to take that time. I got to get some time to think, like we were talking about earlier, and really just say, look, what am I not happy with the way it is right now? What do I really desire it to be? And by even daring, most people won't even do that first step right there that we just said. Mm-hmm. But if you do that, then you can start to break through and say, again, what does it look like to be successful in these areas? What does it look like for those specific changes to have occurred? What will I be? What will it look like to be on the other side of this? Who will I be when I'm on the other side of this? And by having that and then implementing the path from there to where you are, you can start to move.
That's awesome advice. Well, we're just about out of time. I'd like to give you the opportunity to tell people how they can connect with you and what they can find when they reach out to you.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I would love for people to come join the avid listeners of my show over at beyondthetodolist.com. Again, there's 115 plus episodes with me having conversations with all these bright minds of productivity. And on that site, you can find all the links to the books and other ways to connect with me.
Awesome. Well, Eric, thank you so much for the time today. And we'd love to have you back again on another show to talk about more. I mean, the goal setting, to-do lists, all those things are things people struggle with every day. So we need to keep being reminded about it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'll keep doing a show then.
Awesome. Great. Well, folks, there you have it. I think we can check that one off our to-do list. We now know practical ways to set up goals and how to implement them. And we'll see you next time on Keeping You Organized.